So a little over a year ago, I filmed and posted my first video on this YouTube channel. It was me reading my first classic, which was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And ever since then, I haven't read anything else by Donna Tartt. So as a little homage to my first video, I wanted to read my second book by Donna Tartt, The Goldfinch. I actually haven't heard much about this book, but I do know that it's supposed to be very sad. I had some criticisms of this book, so that's why this video is titled what it is, because I want to find out if I actually like Donna Tartt's writing or if it was just The Secret History that I liked. I think it's supposed to be kind of autumnal. It is November. I think it's the perfect time to read it. So let's make a coffee and let's get started. I forgot to say that this book is almost 900 pages long, so that's why I was a little bit scared to read it, because The Secret History has around 500 pages and it took me about a week to read that. So yeah, and I am a little bit on a time crunch because I have about 8 days until I'm flying to Poland and I want to finish it before I leave. What's interesting is I think I have just finished chapter 1, and I think chapters in this book are more like acts because we have bigger parts. So part 1 and then we go into chapter 1. But in chapter 1 we also have, I would call them scenes, I guess, because if this is an act, the contents would be scenes. They are divided by Roman numerals. So we have Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2. So it was a really long chapter, 60 pages, and we find out that our main character is in the Netherlands, running away from some sort of mysterious tragedy he's involved in. And while he's rambling in this sort of insanity breakdown, I don't know what's happening to him. I don't know why he's so upset. He is recollecting his mother's death, who died 14 years ago. We have the whole recollection of that day. I really enjoyed reading this. It was so gripping. I do enjoy this writing style, but I do know that there is some parts that I'm like, why are we talking about this? This has nothing to do with the story or the plot line, but that is done on purpose, and that is Donna Tartt's writing style. She does write about things that are seemingly unimportant, but they do make up the atmosphere and the scenery, and we get to know our characters so much more because of that. I was definitely enraptured by this first chapter. It was gripping, it was scary, and I did almost cry. I am scared to find out what is going to happen next, because to be fair, we don't know much about his current life and what is happening right now. We only have that one day that we know about, so actually, in the rest of part 1, we follow Fu's childhood. I originally thought that only the first chapter would have a retrospective, but we are going in a chronological order, going from the catastrophe and what happened to Fu after it, because he basically became an orphan, and we find out what has happened to him, who he has met, what he has to deal with, where he lives, and what he does. What I find interesting is that the parts I originally thought were kind of unnecessary in chapter 1. They were very necessary. The people that he met, the things that he did, they are very, very relevant, and they do come back into play in the rest of part 1, and I think they're gonna probably play a big role throughout the book. Also, art and paintings play a very integral role in this book. It is very much interwoven with art, similar to The Secret History, which was interwoven with Latin and Greek studies. I think this is going to have that same kind of vibe. I am just about to start part 2, so let's see what this one is about. as much as his life upended in first part, I mean, he was dealing with a lot of trauma and grief. He was still living in New York. He was still going to the same school and having the same friends. He did move somewhere new, but his life looked very similar to his normal life. And I feel like this part had a lot of sense of hope that things will work out well and that our main character gradually will be able to continue his life. However, the second part flips that completely. Theo, after leaving New York, slips down a slippery road of bad decisions, making questionable friends and questionable choices, and his old life slowly dissipates, figuratively and literally, and all that hope, I feel like, is thwarted. So yeah, I have just gotten to the end of part 2 and I am slowly again gaining that inkling of hope, but I am scared because I don't want this hope to be thwarted again. But let's start part 3. What the hell? I knew something was up. I mean, pretty obvious, but what the hell? I have just reached part 5. It is the next day, of course. And I have a little over 100 pages left. So I'm definitely finishing it today. But honestly, I've been feeling such uneasiness reading all of the part 3 and 4, basically. But everything's about to go down now, so yeah. This book will crawl into your mind and settle deep into it. This is a story that you will just keep on thinking and thinking about long after you put it down. When I started this book, I was actually reading 2 books at once, but because of the rich plot and how well it's written, I kept thinking about it and I actually stopped reading the other book. Even though I only had about 50 pages left, I have still not finished it because all I could think about was this book and how much I want to continue reading it. This is absolutely expertly written and I feel like this is not a criticism you can make to Donna Tartt. Her writing will always be impeccable, in my opinion, though I think there is a lot of things that people could not like about this book. I absolutely fell in love with the first and second part of this book. I think it was so heartbreakingly real and I loved the sense of hope but also sadness, and I don't know how grief was really explained in this book. It was just so perfectly done. Grappling with grief at such a young age and grappling with what Theo had to deal with, which is bouncing from different places, living in different places, living with different people and relying on those people, is what really captivated me. Theo is ultimately driven into the criminal underworld, and I don't want to spoil too much, obviously. This is such a hard book not to spoil, and I feel like that is where my problem problems began with it, not because of the criminal world. I really enjoyed that part of it, but because the grief, even though it is still present after the first two parts, it's more muddled with addiction and drugs and guilt. And me myself, reading about addiction and drugs, it makes me really uneasy and depressed. So that is the one part I didn't enjoy that much, even though it was done really well, and I understand why it was done, and I think it makes sense for this book. But like I said, I struggle with that. I think the story captures so well how immense grief and immense tragedy can turn your life into something you would never have even thought about. And it really illustrated how the places you grew up in, the people you grew up with, and their choices, their lifestyles impact you so much and can change your life irreparably, really. I really enjoyed the meaning of this book, and I think because I was so captivated by the writing and the first two parts, like I said, that is what made me really stick through this book. I am giving this book 4 stars. I think I definitely preferred The Secret History, but one thing I can say about this book is that it's much clearer to understand what is going on in this book than The Secret History, because The Secret History has obviously all those Greek and Latin lessons, which for me were very complicated to understand. I was very lost at the beginning, and there were a lot of crazy things happening in that book. And as crazy as this book is, this is just something that could happen in real life. But thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!